One of these teens was allegedly upset about a poor grade.
And with that, in these text messages, 16-year-old Aiden Fucci refers to his jail cell.
We come on the air. The verdict is in. Just within the past 45 minutes, a jury found Jennifer Mee guilty of murder.
5 lives, 5 bad decisions, and 5 reactions that reflect the seriousness of life sentences. These aren't scenes from a movie. They're the reality for teenagers who stepped beyond the law and faced the ultimate consequence. Here are the stories of 5 teens, their split-second choices, and the day their time stopped ticking freely. Starting with Aiden Fucci, a teenager whose one wrong move on a night brought a lifetime of consequences in the light of day. On Mother's Day 2021, a 13-year-old cheerleader named Tristyn Bailey was reported missing in Durbin Crossing, Florida. That night, according to police reports, Aiden Fucci had asked for Bailey's number and convinced her to meet him at a friend's house. Surveillance footage captured 2 figures, believed to be Fucci and Bailey, walking east on Saddlestone Drive toward a retention pond, the same area where Bailey's body was later discovered. An hour and 45 minutes after they were first spotted, the camera caught Fucci returning alone, now carrying his shoes. Later, Bailey's body was found bearing the horrific signs of over 100 stab wounds. The evidence against 14-year-old Fucci, known for his violent tendencies, was convincing. A knife that belonged to him was found near the crime scene, and his clothes were bloodied with traces matching Bailey's. Facing a second-degree murder charge that was quickly upgraded to first-degree due to the nature of the crime, Fucci entered a guilty plea as his trial was about to begin. The judge sentenced him to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years, considering his juvenile status at the time of the crime.
Tonight, a teenager accused of murdering his 13-year-old classmate has been threatening and extorting other teen inmates and violence against correction officers and other inmates.
Next, we turn to Willard Noble Caden Miller and Jeremy Goodale, whose pact in a small town spiraled into a crime that left the community in disbelief. Now, what if I told you 2 boys plotted a deadly trap for their teacher just for the grades? Willard Noble, Caden Miller, and Jeremy Goodale. In Fairfield, Iowa, 2 teenagers, Willard Noble Caden Miller and Jeremy Goodale, were charged with the murder of their high school Spanish teacher, Nohema Graber. Court documents revealed that they had planned the attack, surveilling Graber's daily routine before ambushing her on her walk and dragging her into the woods. Her body was later found concealed under a tarp, wheelbarrow, and railroad ties in Chautauqua Park.
Tomorrow marks 1 year since Nohema Graber was reported missing. Police found her body the same day in a park.
Graber, 66, was reported missing on November 2nd, and her remains were discovered the same day. The trauma to her head indicated a violent attack. Both Miller and Goodale, who were 14 then, attended Graber's Spanish class at Fairfield High School. The prosecutor argued against trying the teens as juveniles, stating that no juvenile facility could appropriately rehabilitate them for such heinous crimes. The 2 teens held on a $1 million cash bond pleaded not guilty. They were charged as adults with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder, facing a life sentence with the possibility of parole due to a state ruling on juvenile sentencing. Now, let me take you to Ohio, where a toxic relationship leads to a harrowing 100 miles per hour crash. Mackenzie Shirilla. In Ohio, 19-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla faced the consequences of a deadly decision she made at 17. Convicted of intentionally crashing her car at a speed of 160 kilometers per hour into a brick wall, she caused the deaths of her boyfriend, 20-year-old Dominic Russo, and his friend, 19-year-old Davian Flanagan. The crash, a violent end to a toxic relationship with Russo, was argued by prosecutors to be a deliberate act to end. Shirilla, who survived the crash, was hospitalized, while Russo and Flanagan were pronounced dead at the scene. At her sentencing, she received 2 consecutive life sentences with the possibility of parole after 15 years. Found guilty of multiple charges, including murder and aggravated vehicular homicide, Shirilla tearfully expressed remorse at her sentencing, claiming no memory of the crash. The court saw a video of the car's final moments, showing it accelerating without any attempt to slow down before the impact. This evidence was crucial in determining her guilt, with the judge describing her actions as methodical and intentional. Despite her defense lawyer's arguments, the judge was unconvinced that Sharilla would be granted parole in 15 years, suggesting she might spend her life in prison based on her conduct in future parole board decisions.
She got sentenced 15 years to life for taking the lives of 2 people.
Moving towards children who killed their own grandparents, the case of Antonio Barbeau and Nathan Pape. But before that, if you're enjoying the video, hit like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories. Antonio Barbeau and Nathan Pape. In Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin, a community was shaken by the brutal murder of 78-year-old Barbara Olson in 2012. The assaulters were her 13-year-old great-grandson, Antonio Barbeau, and his best friend, Nathan Pape. The 2 teenagers had planned the murder, arming themselves with a hatchet and hammer before attacking Olson in her own home. On September 17, 2012, Pape's mother drove him and his friend Antonio Barbeau to West Wind Bluffs. The boys bid her farewell and watched as she drove away. They stealthily entered Barbara Olson's garage, planning to trap her through the kitchen door. But Barbara, Antonio's great-grandmother, invited them inside, even offering to inform Antonio's mother of his whereabouts. As she turned away, the boys grabbed their moment. With a hammer and hatchet in hand, they attacked Barbara. The teenagers then tried to drag her bloodied body to the car, but they couldn't and left her in the garage, stealing $155 and some jewelry. The crime was discovered 2 days later when Olson's daughter found her body. Within 12 hours, the boys were detained, with evidence including bloody clothes and the stolen items found in their possession. Both teenagers were charged as adults with first-degree murder. Antonio Barbeau entered a plea of not guilty by mental disease or defect, but later changed his plea to no contest as part of a deal, making him eligible for parole after 35 years. Nathan Pape was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 31 years before parole eligibility.
I made a doctor. There's both of us. With what? Like hammer thing.
And now, what happens when the Hiccup Girl makes headlines again, but this time for a crime that's no hiccup? Jennifer Mee. Jennifer Mee, once known nationwide as the Hiccup Girl for her uncontrollable hiccups, Mee fell from public sympathy to notoriety when she was involved in a murder at the age of 19. Mee used a social networking site to connect with Shannon Griffin, a Walmart employee who recently relocated to Florida. They were strangers to each other before the online interaction. Mee arranged to meet Griffin at a vacant house. Upon his arrival, she led him to the back where her partners, LaRon Rayford and Lamont Newton, were waiting, armed and ready. The encounter turned deadly when Griffin was shot multiple times with a .38 caliber revolver. Hours after Griffin's body was discovered, Mee and her 2 housemates, Rayford and Newton, were arrested. Despite not having fired the shots, Mee was charged with first-degree murder under the law's firm stance on the accountability of accomplices. Mee was later sentenced to life without parole for her role in a robbery that ended in the death of a man. Rayford received a life sentence and Newton was awaiting trial. Jennifer Mee, once famous for her constant hiccups and known as the Hiccup Girl, ended up with a life sentence after being involved in a murder. This was a shocking change from when she was on the Today Show and people felt sorry for her because of her hiccups. Now, instead of being a media sensation, she's known for a much more serious and tragic reason.
Has the night off. The so-called Hiccup Girl now faces life in prison. Our Jacqueline Inglace was inside the courtroom.
In closing, these stories are reminders of the severe consequences that follow serious crimes. As we reflect on the importance of wise choices and the heavy impact of our actions, we invite you to share your perspective. What lessons do you take away from these narratives? Comment below and let us know. And as always, everybody, thank you very much for choosing to spend your time with us today. Stay safe, take care of each other, and we'll see you in our next video.